Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called No Exceptions. At my old job we used to have flexible lunch breaks. We could go anytime between 11:30 and 2, as long as someone was covering. It worked just fine. Then a new manager came in and said everyone must take lunch at exactly 12, no exceptions. Alright then, when 12 hit we all just walked away. Phones ringing, customers mid-sentence, not our problem. The boss looked panicked, trying to handle everything at once. By the time we got back, the place was a complete mess. The next day there was a new rule. Lunch between 11:30 and 2 is fine. So back to normal. Cool boss. The next story is called Peter Principle. I used to work at a large telecommunications company. Above me was my manager, Albert. Above him was Barry, and above him, senior manager Colette. My job was to provide management reporting, mostly through Excel, with some detailed graphs, macros and an array of formulas, including some complex ones. Colette was a young, ambitious manager who knew how to network, say the right things to the right people, and sound confident, whether or not she actually understood what she was managing. Because of this, she had been promoted beyond her level of competence, in classic Peter Principle style, and often struggled in her role. But she carried herself as if she was always in control, and wanted to demonstrate excellent leadership. One of her habits, which I had witnessed on the rare occasions I was invited into meetings as the data expert, was her immediate response to any issue. She would declare that a report was needed and must be updated weekly. While this might have made sense for serious problems, she applied it even to minor ones that lower level staff could have handled. Barry, my manager's boss, was an experienced, ambitious middle manager who wanted to climb the corporate ladder. In his mind, and he was probably right, the best way to get promoted was to tell Colette whatever she wanted to hear. If she had a target of 1,000 widgets, Barry would tell her we had made 1,000 widgets, whether or not we actually had. Albert, my direct manager, had been with the company for 25 years. He was good at his job but was nearing retirement and had little interest in unnecessary battles. If Barry requested something unreasonable, Albert would point out that it was a bad idea. But if Barry insisted, Albert would shrug and go along with it. At the bottom of this hierarchy, I was the one actually making the reports. My managers had no idea how I did it. This was an era where many senior managers had grown up without computers, and even basic Excel functions were a mystery to them. They viewed all the graphs, macros and calculations as some kind of digital magic. They had no concept of whether a task took 10 minutes or 10 hours, or whether it was manual or automated. So I absolutely dreaded when Colette demanded a new report in response to a minor issue. I knew that 90% of the time she would forget about it within a week, unless the issue came up again. That particular year I was extra busy. Due to layoffs from the global financial crisis, I was essentially doing 2 jobs at once. One day, Albert told me that Barry had informed him about a new request from Colette. She now wanted a weekly report on the top 3 colors of widgets. I pointed out to Albert that the color of the widgets was completely irrelevant. They were whatever color the supplier sent, and since they were buried in the ground, no one even saw them. There was absolutely no reason for senior management to care about this. Albert agreed, saying he had already explained this to Barry. But Barry insisted, Colette wants it, so we have to make it. So I created the report. It took about 40 minutes each week, since it involved a slightly complicated manual process. I placed it in the shared folder where Colette could access it, and sent an email to all 3 of them with a link. For 8 weeks I sent that email. I never heard a word about it. I strongly suspected that no one was looking at the reports, because, well, Colette had probably forgotten she even asked for them. Eventually I told Albert that I really didn't have time to keep making these reports when they were likely going unread. I had more important tasks. and my work quality would suffer if I keep wasting time on this. Albert sighed and said, I understand, but Barry doesn't want to stop producing something Colette asked for, so you need to keep making the report. Even though it's not useful, they are probably not even looking at it. Yes, you still have to make it. Alright then. I made 8 weekly reports at that point. What a productive 5 hours spent making all those reports, I thought. 8 files full of pretty graphs that no one would ever look at. Might as well not have any Wait a second. That week I created a blank Excel file. I changed the font to bold, red, size 18. Right in the middle of sheet 1, I typed error with data upload. Data link failed. Error code X. Then I saved it in the folder as report for week 9. Technically I still made a report, right? It was right there in the folder. A week went by. No one said a thing. So the next week I copied the file, pasted it in the folder and renamed it 9 to a 10. Same blank Excel file. Same message. For 5 months I continued copying the same file. My 40-minute weekly report now took 4 seconds. Easily one of my most efficient pieces of work ever. Finally, Albert reviewed my workload and agreed that something had to go. Among the reports I was actually making that took real time, I casually mentioned, oh, and there's that weekly widget color report. I know Barry still wants it, but I just realized yesterday that there's been an issue with the data upload, and it hasn't been working for a few weeks. They don't seem to have noticed, so maybe they are not actually looking at it. Since Albert saw all this as technical wizardry, he believed me completely. He agreed I could stop making it and said, if Barry asks for it again, we'll have to investigate this data upload issue. I smiled and replied, I'm confident we can fix it if needed. The third story is called Unnecessary Overtime. My husband works in an HVAC department that covers multiple buildings. The department typically runs with a crew of 5, even though they really need 6. So everyone picks up overtime each week. This has been a long-standing debate between their boss and their boss's boss, who believes the crew is wasting time and shouldn't actually need the overtime. Not too long ago, one of the guys burned out and left. Now the crew was down to 4. Boss's boss saw this as the perfect opportunity, not only to prove that overtime was unnecessary, but that they didn't even need to replace the 5th crew member. How was he going to prove this? By requiring each crew member to send a detailed daily email, outlining exactly what they did and how long it took. Fortunately for the crew, my husband has plenty of experience with adaptive technology, specifically text-to-speech and speech-to-text. So the next morning, as soon as they started work, each of them began recording every action. Removing screwdriver from toolbox, unscrewing screw from bottom left corner of compressor access panel. At lunch, each team member copied the text into an email, without editing it, and sent it to boss's boss. At the end of the regular workday, they did the same thing for the second half of their shift. Then they each worked 4 hours of overtime, and at the end of that, they documented everything again and sent it off. The next morning, they arrived to find an email waiting for them, requesting that they stop documenting their time. A few weeks later, they were training a replacement for their 5th crew member. They still don't have the 6th person they need, but at least their boss doesn't hear any more complaints about their overtime. The last story is called Updates. I used to work in a medical facility in a military camp, where the guy in charge wanted updates on everything, no matter how small. His reasoning was that it was his medical center, so he needed to know everything that was going on. There were always at least 2 medical staff on duty overnight and on weekends, while the facility was fully staffed on weekdays. He requested that the on-duty medical staff send him updates by text, and got very frustrated when there were no updates. Okay, message received loud and clear. When I was on duty, he was very well informed. Taking over duty, update. Sending someone to the hospital, update. Okay, this one actually makes sense. But if we were transferring multiple patients overnight, that meant multiple updates. In the middle of the night. Handling administrative tasks at headquarters, update. And if I had to go back and forth multiple times, yep, update every single time. Finishing my shift, update. By the time Monday rolled around, this man had received a lot of updates. When he came back, he implemented a new rule. Updates were now only required for major emergencies or important duties and incidents. And what counted as important? Well, that was up to us to decide. Mission accomplished. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.